And we start this half hour of Wavy News 10 midday with breaking news. The brother of the late Codi Bigsby just testified in the trial against his father, Codi Bigsby. Of course, or Cory Bigsby, rather. Cory Bigsby is currently charged in connection to the death and disappearance of 4-year-old Codi Bigsby that went missing in January 2022. 10 on your side's Aisha Tolliver is live now. She was the only local reporter with a clear view of the 7-year-old who testified and wrapped up his testification just moments ago. Aisha.
Brett, thank you. Yes, I was directly in front of the jury, so on that front row on the very side corner, so I had a clear view of the monitor and the 7-year-old's testimony. I will not be naming this little boy just due to the sensitivity of his age, but I do want to walk you through what we've heard so far. The little boy really wasn't even barely big enough to see over the table. That's how little he was when he was sitting there in that monitor. He had a bow tie on, he was dressed up, and he was put himself together very well. They asked him things at first like, who's your second grade teacher? So he is a second grader. Do you know your ABCs? Do you know how to read? Do you know what's true and what's not? And he said, true is what's real, false is what's not. And that's how he explained that. He did start to get a bit emotional, put his hands over his head a few times, but this is when things really turned. He said some point when he was living with his father, he wanted to play with his brothers upstairs. And when he went upstairs to go play with his brothers, Codi would not wake up. He wasn't able to wake him. He shook little Codi around 4 times, he says, and called out his name, Codi, Codi, wake up. He says he noticed his face was red, dry, and bruised, and that his eyes were open, but that he was not moving and was not saying anything at that time. And that's when he really started to cry. They had to give him some tissues. He said the bruises on little Codi's face were purple, and that he, at one point, Anton Bell even picked up the boy who was testifying onto the desk and had him demonstrate how little Codi was laying when he wasn't moving. And he said, quote, I was thinking he was dead. So he runs downstairs to his father and he says, Dad, what's wrong with Codi? And he says, Dad said nothing was wrong. So then he went back upstairs to go try and wake little Codi again. Again, his eyes open the entire time, but nothing happened. He did not move. And then they went on to talk about times he went to Busch Gardens and things like that. But right now, he's actually answering questions from Cory's attorney. Let me get that right. The defense is now asking the little boy some questions. It seems like they are somewhat trying to discredit his testimony, asking specific dates. The little boy is saying, I don't know. I'm not sure. Did you talk to this person, that person? I don't know. So that's kind of what's happening right now. But he did specifically ask, did your mom tell you what to tell us? He said, no, my mom did not. He said, did your mom tell you where Codi was? The little boy said, no. Where do you think your brother is? He asked the little boy, and his brother said, I don't know. So that's kind of where we are right now. Very emotional testimony, just as a little boy, how brave you have to be to go up and take the stand like that. And a couple of times he corrected the attorneys on name pronunciations and spellings of that sort. Very smart little boy. But we'll be hearing more from Chris Horn later. He's also in the courtroom listening to that same testimony.
Aisha, thank you so much for that insight. Do you actually happen to know when the day was that the older brother of Codi saw all of this?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Do you know when the day this was, the time of year that Codi's older brother witnessed what happened?
So that's something that's still up in the air, and that's what they're trying to pin down. He said he was living with his dad when he was 4 years old and turned 5. Mind you, he is now 7. He said sometime during that time, that's when he last saw his brother when he was just 4 years old. So he had a birthday and everything after that fact, after he last saw his little brother. And that's why they started asking questions about Busch Gardens, and they brought up pictures of him with his father at Busch Gardens. And he said that was after he had last seen his little brother. So right now, the exact month and timeline is a little bit confusing, but you have to remember, we're dealing with a child, a 7-year-old who's trying to do his best to remember from 2+ years ago.